Hi everyone, my name is Amelia Benavides-Colon and I'm a freshman here at Wayne State. I'm double majoring in global studies and journalism with a concentration in print and online. These are some of the articles I put out this year that I'm super proud of. You'll notice that 2 of the 3 focus on international issues, which is what I specifically plan on going into. And the text that I chose for this project was Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart, which not only has lots of historical significance, but the themes presented throughout the book can be seen in different aspects of society today. One of the major themes presented in Things Fall Apart is the effects of colonialism, which we'll dive into more specifically later. But it's important to realize that colonialism didn't end at the turn of the century, and its effects are still seen today through the spread of disease, the rise and fall of economies, and the suppression and disregard of other cultures throughout developing countries. The photographs here were taken in Nigeria in 1958, which is the year Achebe published Things Fall Apart. The book tells the story of Okonokwo, an alpha male in his community, a father of 3 children, and a husband to 3 wives. The book tells the story of colonialism in his village from his perspective, rather than the perspective of the colonizer. In the story, the traditions and culture of Umuofia are emphasized to show readers the beauty in different ways of life. At the end of the story, Okonokwo commits suicide after realizing that there is no saving Umuofia from colonization. The first global issue presented in Things Fall Apart is the idea of westernization. This is the major theme of the story and is reflected through the missionaries who enter Umuofia and begin converting the people there. The ideas that they are pushing are ideas that are valued and respected in Western countries such as America and Europe, and pushing these values essentially is telling the people of Umuofia that they must conform to the more popular and honestly the more white way of life. The author is obviously trying to show the negative effects of westernization on other cultures through his portrayal of colonialism in this book. Achebe is from Nigeria himself and was most likely writing from his own knowledge and experiences of his people and culture. The first aspect of westernization portrayed in Things Fall Apart is the push for converting to Christianity brought by the missionaries. In Umuofia, they practiced Odinani, a monotheistic religion that believed in one God as well as multiple spirits that represented different aspects of society. Christianity was prominent and expanding throughout Europe and the Americas, which explains why colonizers were bringing the religion with them when colonizing new areas. I think Achebe makes a good point of laying out the similarities between Christianity and Odinani. They both believe in one supreme God that is the creator of all things, with the only difference being the belief in Jesus Christ as the Savior and the belief in spirits. I think Achebe is advocating the preservation of smaller non-Christian religions as they aren't harming anybody. It's simply the way they choose to interpret the things happening around them. The picture on the left here is of a shrine from Nigeria in the late 50s, and then the picture on the right is what you can find in the shrine. These are statues symbolizing Odinani spirits. Achebe is a strong writer, a fact that isn't debated, and by telling the story of the Igbo people through this fictional tale, it allows for more creative liberties. It gives them the opportunity to exaggerate certain features of colonialism for dramatic effect, while still giving factual information and telling versions of real-life experiences. I think Things Fall Apart was very effective in teaching the effects of colonialism from the perspective of the individual being colonized, which is a perspective that isn't often given much light or attention. By using storytelling to spread this message rather than a movie or a poem, it's a lot more powerful and leaves the reader with questions and an overall interest in the subject matter that they can explore further after reading. Another theme that is shown through Things Fall Apart is the abuse of governments and leaders on its people. This theme isn't as prominent as the westernization theme, but I think it's really important to touch on. Achebe reflects governmental abuse through both the punishments put out by the Igbo elders themselves and also the imprisonment that the missionaries use when enforcing their rules on the village people. It's obvious that Achebe is anti-governmental abuse when it's coming from colonizers, as I'm sure we all are. What is harder to decipher is if he feels the same way when the punishment is coming from the village elders. A lot of those punishments were unique to the traditions of Igbo society. An example of this is the killing of Ike Mifuna, an act that Okonokwo himself wasn't all for, but still did because he was instructed to. This behavior doesn't seem to be as looked down upon as when the colonizers began imprisoning those who spoke out against Christianity, even though both are forms of abuse against citizens. Achebe could have emphasized on this a little more, especially in terms of Okonokwo's feelings about it, and I think the opportunity for it was there. I do think if you take the time to analyze the text and look deeper into governmental abuse both historically and today, then you'll see the point Achebe was trying to make. This video interview put out by Al Jazeera speaks about the effects of colonialism on people from different countries. The female speaker is Priyambada Gopal, born in India, a country that was colonized by England. The next speaker is Miguel de Barros from Angola, a country that was colonized by Portugal. And finally, we have Akin Adeskan from Nigeria, a country colonized by Britain. These three individuals each have unique insight and opinions on the effects of colonialism in today's society. This interview was formatted very nicely, with each speaker given the opportunity to answer each question, and there was room available for the speakers to engage with each other and have conversations. And things fall apart, we are only given the perspective of the colonized, which was Achebe's goal, and we don't hear anything from the perspective of the colonizer until the last few pages of the novel. But this interview approach allows for more conversation, and the fact that all of these speakers were born in a colonized country and then moved on to become experts in the field gives them both personal experience and academic knowledge similar to Achebe. Hassan Hanafi is a philosophy professor at the University of Cairo, and he speaks bluntly and openly about the negative effects colonization has had on our modern society. Hanafi's approach to this material is very different from Achebe, as he used a fictional story to spread the message of colonialism. Hanafi used this interview we read in class to share his thoughts, and he's quoted saying, "The threat is actually greater because only one path, one opinion, and one ideal is being followed. And anyone who dares to defy, for example, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, Sudan, Saudi Arabia, or Yemen must expect military aggression either through the United Nations or outside of the United Nations." This approach is very different, but in my opinion, it's just as effective. I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation that I chose Things Fall Apart for this project because of the effects colonization has on our modern society. In conclusion, it's important to realize that today there are hundreds of countries under direct military occupation due to past colonialism, including Palestine, Kashmir, Western Sahara, and Crimea. Palestine is probably the most famous example of this. Military occupation in Palestine prohibits Palestinians from returning to their land and yet gives citizenship to anyone who can prove Jewish ancestry. This is all rooted in the colonization of Palestine in 1918 by Britain.